From Carolla One Studios in Glendale, California, this is the Adam Carolla Show. Adam's guest today, X Games gold medalist Travis Pastrana. With Gina Grad on news, Bald Bryan on sound effects, and Dave Damashek's here with good sports. And now, with a mask covering his nose and mouth, it's even more important to have his eyebrows waxed so he looks interested. Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get it on. No choice but to get on. A mandate. You get it on, man. Excited to talk to Travis Pastrana later on in the show today. First, good day, Gina Grad.
Good day to you.
Handball, Brian.
YOLO, man.
Oh, yeah.
That was Shaun White.
Shaun White, right. Yeah. Travis may, in an interesting way, be one of the best athletes in the last 20 years, in the sense that what he's doing is crazy and athletic, but if he fucks up, he dies. Which you can say, boxing, there's a chance, and football, there's a chance, and downhill skiing, but there's a real chance that what he's doing is a combination of daredevil. I'm pretty sure I saw an episode of like Nitro Circus where he jumped out of an airplane with no parachute. No parachute.
And lands on what?
I was going to say.
And walks away.
The trick, and you can look for it, sorry for putting you on the spot, the trick is you jump out with no parachute, and I think you have to hook up with a guy who does have a parachute who jumped earlier.
No, thank you.
He has his shirt off, he's wearing board shorts, and he jumps out of an airplane.
You drinking a beer?
He has some in his hand.
I'm going to go Red Bull.
Yep, you're right, Red Bull.
But he's doing flips.
Not a care in the world.
He's not a care in the world, but he's not wearing a parachute.
They got him.
Wow, that's some James Bond shit.
Somebody's riding him.
Somebody is sexually, not only is he without a parachute, he's lost his dignity. He's being raped by a man from behind. Yeah. But here's the deal. He jumped out of an airplane in a pair of board shorts, and that was all.
And there was no hesitation on his end. He just, is it time to go?
Yeah. I think if you're pensive and you're contemplating, maybe this isn't the act for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you got to make a few phone calls, if you want to speak to your therapist.
Get your affairs in order.
Make sure your insurance is paid out.
Yeah.
Oh, it'd be awesome if he had an emotional support animal with no parachute that he threw out with him.
Yeah. I was to say, tucked under his arm.
You know how outraged everyone on the internet would be if he took a lap dog and jumped out with it? They'd burn his house down. So anyway, that's Travis Pastrana. So I'm and he's a funny guy who's kind of engaging and interesting as well. So we'll do that. Yes.
Well, the idea for his new show, because I watched a little bit of it, is it's awesome, and it's like living every child's fantasy. But that is 100% something to be very careful before you show your kids, because it's essentially taking their childhood toys and blowing them up into life size and doing daredevil stuff. And we got a kid in here that's going to be like, "Can we go down the street in a giant rubber duck and slam into?" Like, it's too tempting to want to try something like this.
Well, you think that's bad? For my kid, it would be recreating Fortnite, like taking actual warriors with machetes and hatchets.
Dropped on a deserted island.
Right. All right. So we'll do that in a couple of few. I was talking to Mark Garagos a little bit earlier in the day as we were taping our show, and we were talking about the woman who was arrested, who was the Epstein sort of...
Ghislaine Maxwell.
Oh,
yeah, no one can say her first name, so everyone just goes Miss Maxwell. But and what information she might have. And then I sort of really realized, I said to Mark, I think we can take the nation and divide them into two groups. Either there was a picture of you many years ago in blackface, or you're on the Epstein flight manifest. I think that's it. I think everyone is, you got to choose one, but someone is going to be, or possibly both, which is a bad day.
While on the flight.
Right. So I don't know who's nervous. And I was sort of asking him about that. And obviously we were talking about Trump, and then we were talking about Clinton. We're talking about Clinton and Trump, and then I said, yeah, but you know who's really got to be scared about now? Jimmy Carter. And then he started laughing, and then I thought, yeah, see, here's the deal. You are sort of judged by your actions in life. And so when you go, who may be on that flight manifest? And you go, Trump. And you go, yeah,
I can see that.
Yeah, I can see that. And you go, well, how about Bill Clinton? Oh, yeah. I could definitely. That's up. And then you go, well, how about Jimmy Carter? And you go, what? No, he builds houses for poor people.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's why you do good things in life versus fuck strays. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of that's how we work. And by the way, we're right to do that.
Yeah.
You go, well, you can't judge these guys. Like, well, I kind of can, but I'm also judging Jimmy Carter. You see? That's how it works. And
judging works both ways. You can judge someone positively.
Yeah. It's funny. I just had this conversation at my house. I was talking to Lynette, and she was kind of giving me well, here's what you think, and you judge, and you think of people this way or that way. And I go, I just think of people how they get me to think of them. That's what I do. Otherwise, I'd be a fool. I have people who I look at as one way, obviously. Look, I think about Mark Garriga's quite a bit different than many folks who've worked here and been fired over the years because they're different people and they act differently. And then I said to her, I said, hey, let's just look no further than our son, Sonny. 2 weeks ago, I thought of him as a lazy person who was sitting around drinking cola and playing video games. The last 2 weeks, the boy's been out in the yard with the pickaxe, working a sweat up and hitting it out of the ballpark. So didn't he just get us to look at him differently by his actions in a very short period of time?
Yeah.
That's the way life works.
Ironically, in a fortnight.
In a fortnight. Thank
Jesus
God
Christ.
you are good.
She's on fire.
All right. Also, I was talking. It's funny. So I sent out a tweet. Somebody tweeted me. I woke up this morning and there was I had Uppity and Willy T on my mind because the New York Times wanted to do an article on Netflix and how woke they all were these days. And I said, well, yeah, they are. And that's good. But the real story about Uppity is how it was just sort of ignored by all the film festivals and frankly, HBO. The guy was a douche at HBO. Like, he was insulting to me when I was saying, hey, man, I just got done watching like Andre the Giant at the HBO screening party. And I was like, oh, you guys like interesting sports docs or, sort of, not football, baseball, or basketball, but I got a sporting doc that I think you're going to find inspirational. The guy was insulting to me. He said I watched part of it, like a hard pass. Like, he was a dick. Everyone at HBO is a dick, by the way. And so I was like, HBO didn't want to have anything to do with it. Sundance didn't want to have anything to do with it. I don't know that the guy from the New York Times wanted that angle, but I gave it to him anyway. But I woke up this morning and somebody said, hey, how come it has no reviews by critics on Rotten Tomatoes? And I said, yeah, how come it has no reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, which it's 98% with the people, but it doesn't have any reviews with the critics, because the critics, they either sort of pass on stuff or they ignore you. Or not the critics, but Sundance will just ignore you, and then the critics will Sundance will pass on you and the critics will just ignore you. That's because it's like you were never born. We couldn't get this thing sold anywhere. And the only reason it's on Netflix is because it got put there as a package. Netflix wanted the 24-hour war because Ford v. Ferrari was hot. Right. They wanted Shelby American because Shelby, of course, was hot. And then they took Uppity as part of and we'll take Uppity.
Throw it in.
Right.
It's odd.
Yeah, it's odd. anyway, that's the world we're living in. And I woke up and the guy said, why none? And I said, here's why none. And then somebody said, let's see, I wrote, how come it was rejected from every single film festival it was entered in? How come HBO, as well as many other networks, passed on it? What if it said directed by Ava DuVernay on it? You think things might be different? And then the people do you're the one who says don't be a victim. So I want to address that, which is interesting. I tell people don't think of yourself as a victim, but I'm not saying you can't be victimized. In this case, Willy T was victimized basically by the system because my name was on his documentary. That's my feeling. I don't think of myself as a victim. It doesn't mean if I'm walking my dog, someone can't hit me while they're driving drunk, and then I could be a victim of a drunk driver. I still wouldn't think of myself as a victim, but it's an interesting thing where people go, you always say, don't act like a victim or don't be a victim, and I completely wholeheartedly agree with that. What I'm saying is you can still be victimized. And I think we should draw a little distinction there. All right.
You owe Willy T. Ribs an apology.
Yes, everyone owes Willy T. an apology. Let's see. Andy's 40 from New Mexico is probably on this subject. Andy?
How's it going, Adam?
What's going on?
Bald, Gina, thanks for taking my call. Thanks for really kicking it up a notch during this whole quarantine and keeping us all entertained.
Wow, thank you, Andy.
What? So my question was right along those lines, and you answered a lot of it. But even one of your wokest friends, Bill Simmons, passed on Willy T. Ribs for 30 for 30, didn't he?
No, he passed on the Newman doc as a 30 for 30. Oh, not the Newman doc. He passed on the idea of the Newman doc for a 30 for 30. I said to him, why don't we do a 30 for 30 for Newman? And he said, maybe a short, Ace. Maybe like a 30 for 30 short. And I said, how long is a short? And he said, it's like one break. And I said, so how long is it? And he said, like 8 or 9 minutes or something like that. And I thought, well, that doesn't seem like enough because Paul lived to 84 and he raced until the day he died. And I feel like there's more there than a 9-minute story. So I just went back and made a full-length doc on it. So I'm kind of glad.
Which was great.
Thanks. I'm kind of glad it wasn't a 30 for 30, but we may be doing a 30 for 30 on something coming up, and we'll talk about that at some point. But no, Bill did not pass on uppity.
Get him on the show. You need to get his woke meter calibrated. He's getting into a lot of trouble these days.
Well, look, whether it's Jimmy or it's Fallon or it's Simmons or whatever it is, there is no you can never be woke enough. It's impossible.
I found you through Simmons, and so I'm thankful to him. And you're the two podcasts I listen to most. But I appreciate the fact that you're not unapologetic. You've stuck to your guns since the Liveline days, and listening to Simmons, he backtracks. He can't even do his Sunday podcast anymore with Ryan Russillo because they misspoke. And it's nice to have a common ground where you guys speak your mind and you let Bald and Gina speak their minds too and disagree with you sometimes or point shit.
Well,
I don't know about that, Andy.
Thank you.
Yeah, listen, I appreciate it, Andy. Look, here's the deal. Every word is being sifted. It's being put through a sieve, and everyone's mining for gold, but it's not gold. It's pyrite. It's stuff that looks good, but it has no value to it.
Okay. I was like, sure.
Fool's gold. Pyrite.
Gotcha. Fool's
pyrite.
gold.
Yeah.
The original title of the Matthew McConaughey movie.
Normally, hot chicks know all about geology, but all right. So, yeah, pyrite is fool's gold. But so I'm saying is if you have a parent company or Disney owns you or whatever that thing is, and you got a whole bunch of people just listening to every word you say, trying to figure out a way to either twist it. By the way, these all woke, no joke assholes, they have a department their historical preservation department that goes over all the shit you said 20 years ago and unearths newly unearthed footage of this thing from The Man Show or from Saturday Night Live or whatever it is, a podcast from 13 years ago. They have groups that are looking for old shit, and then they have another group that are listening, by the way, like the fucking KGB, like just sitting with their earphones on and a notepad, listening in real time, trying to grab stuff, to get your sponsors dropped, to get your parent company to drop you. And people have families, and they have livelihoods, and they have lifestyles, and they would like to keep them. So I do not blame those who modify what they may or may not say based on that kind of intense scrutiny, the enhanced intense scrutiny that they're feeling. Everyone does it.
It's a business decision, like you said.
It's a business decision. I've said Drew Brees made a business decision when he took to Twitter and talked about not standing with the flag, and he makes a business decision when he does a hook slide after he breaks a 12-yard run up the middle. That these are business decisions. People go, put your head down and dive for extra yardage. Okay, you could be paralyzed. It could be out of the league. So I get it. Everyone's making business decisions. I do not blame them. It's called a business and a decision based on that. And look, I haven't made tons of great business decisions as long as we're calling it that. And the result of that may be never participating at Sundance, 0 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes for a movie that's very, very well regarded, and no New York Times bestseller list in my future. So I've made a bad business decision. That's it manifests itself in that way. All right. So I don't blame those who make those decisions. I do blame the people that are constantly trying to get those people removed from their livelihood, especially when it comes in the form of a late night show or a podcast. There's nothing easier to miss than a late night show or a podcast. Brian, ask me how many episodes of The View I've seen in the last 10 years.
Oh, The View is great. If you caught up with it, how many
0.
episodes you've seen?
Right. I don't watch. Not interested. And you could also find 100 podcasts I have no interest in. It's very easy to keep walking. I get this thing where, you're not allowed to get the PA system at the high school and yell a bunch of hateful things into it after they sing Grand Old Flag. I get that. That permeates every classroom. That hits every ear. But a podcast, a late night show, or whatever in this day of the, 700,000 podcasts on iTunes and God knows everyone has 500 TV channels. How about you just fucking watch the shit you enjoy and support the shit you enjoy? How about that?
Keep walking.
Do you have to monitor shows you hate? And by the way, who's the joke on? You hate this show, you hate Laura Ingraham. Fine. You've never missed an episode because you have to monitor every single episode? Right. Jesus Christ, everyone, just get on with it. Just fucking get on with it.
Ironically supporting her, like the water reaches its own level. If no one watches show A and because they don't like it, they don't agree with the message, whatever it is, that show's going to go away eventually if enough people feel that way.
And also, last I checked, people live to 76, 77 years of age. We're not fucking giant sea turtles who live to 185. We're going to die pretty soon. We're on the clock here, people.
Yeah.
Let's make a little hay while the sun is shining.
Or at least let others make a little hay while the sun is shining.
It wouldn't hurt. All right, let's see. Ooh, Matt's wants to talk about Greyhound, the Tom Hanks movie. What's going on? I need this movie.
Well, howdy there. All right. So if you need this, I heard this today, and hello, Bald and Gina. But this is for Ace. This is between you and me, man.
All right.
I'm a submarine sailor myself, and this movie, I was looking forward to it just like you. I found out that, yes, it is being released in July, like in the next couple of weeks here, but it's being distributed by Apple TV. So I don't know if that means theatrical release. So I got to tell you, I'm heartbroken. Is a word that I'm using right now. I don't know how you guys feel about it.
Meaning you can't see it in a movie theater?
I don't know.
Right.
I just knew that Apple TV bought distribution rights when this whole COVID thing went down. And, it got pushed back from April or whenever it was supposed to be. Does anybody got any idea?
Well, I want to talk about you being a submarine sailor.
Yeah, don't bury the lead.
All right, I'll tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah. Make sure and send us a lot of pictures so we can arrest you later on. Put you in the clink.
Yeah, Variety
I should have
says
used my real name.
Variety
says it makes its global debut on July 10th exclusively on the 7-month-old platform Apple TV.
So will not be in the theater.
But this year, first of all, it'll be in a theater at your house. So you're okay, Adam. But also, Bryan, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't there a policy change? Thank you. Isn't there a policy change with the Oscars this year that you can still be considered for an Oscar if it's not theatrical?
Yeah, it used to be you had to have at least 1 week in a theater prior to your, or simultaneous or prior to your on-demand release or whatever streaming. But this year, the 1 year exception. So this will be eligible for Oscars. Apple TV needs to make a splash. No pun intended. It's a submarine movie, but like they launched and they don't have a ton of like exclusive content that everyone's like, oh, have you seen this? Oh, have you seen that? So this is going to go a long way for them. This is a smart move.
So
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us what kind of equipment you're on.
I was on it. Well, not anymore. This was way back when, but I was on a fast stack submarine, a Los Angeles class. I was a sonar technician, so I sat on the stacks and I listened to the different sounds the ocean was making. Told the captain if it was a merchant ship, if it was a warship, if it was a submarine, all that kind of stuff. So that was doing triangulation, finding ranges. So that was my gig for a while.
Could you hear whales?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I snatched some recordings of them and have them on my hard drive, too, just because of that. When we went up to the North Pole, up beneath the ice and listened to that, it was awesome. It was, I can't compare it to anything.
It's crazy that they take the sub underneath the ice.
That's so
I know.
crazy.
And it's scary. And they give you this special sonar that tells you how thick the ice is, when you go underneath it. It's incredible stuff.
How thick is the ice, basically, or average?
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. That's classified. I can't. No. It really depends. It could be 70-something feet, dozens of feet, up by the caps.
Well, not anymore with climate change. Wah, wah.
I did.
Hey, you
just don't ask about Santa.
You must be very aware of the Partridge Family episode where they sung a song with whale songs, the songs of the whales, the sounds of the whales by it. Matt?
I got to tell you, I'm usually able to keep up with you on this, but I'm only 36, man.
I know. I know. Chris will find it. They did a whole. It's funny. It's when Partridge Family jumped the whale. It was like the episode where they got into ecology and saving the whales and all that. At some point, these shows get a little woke and they start getting into causes and stuff like that. And they went down to Marineland and sung a song that they composed with whale sounds.
Wow.
Underneath it. Yeah, some of Bert Convey's best work, I would add.
Sorry.
And you're unfortunately,
telling me this came out in the 70s?
Yeah,
I don't believe
you weren't born. Here we go. We'll play.
Unfortunately, Chris found it.
Yeah.
The B-roll.
Recognize this one, Matt? Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. This is a northern dialect. It's very...
Hold on. You guys know what this song's about? Whale song.
Let's see how it plays out.
I've been looking for a new audition ballad.
My dad's showing it.
Pause, please.
My dad's sitting in with the Partridge Family.
Majestic.
Sing me a song of times that you knew.
All right.
When the
All right, one more, Dawson. Go on, sorry.
Jesus Christ.
and the seabirds they
All right, this is all that was on TV when I was a kid.
Jesus.
That's all.
Oof,
I was forced to watch entire episodes of this stuff.
Humpback.
There was nothing else
Humpback,
to
I
do.
believe that was. If
Oh,
I'm not
Humpback.
mistaken.
A humpback.
Not a sperm, not a blue.
No, there was a killer in the
Blue,
in the
Gina,
vid.
I mean,
but...
I don't want to insult. Forget it.
So, Matt, how long could you stay submerged before coming up to the surface? Was it an indefinite period of time?
More or less, with the advent of nuclear propulsion and submarines and all that, which is basically all our fleet is right now, it's basically just how much food do you have? It's people. I mean, the nuclear reactor can go for years and years and years.
And you can make oxygen.
And there you are. Right, yeah, you can take it along with you. You can. There's recycled air. There's a lot you can do with modern technology.
Thanks for your service, Matt. Appreciate it.
Relevant,
Awesome.
relevant question
I
from Matt.
appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thanks
Hey, Matt,
for listening.
I want to bring it full circle, Matt, if you're still there. Your favorite or maybe one or two submarine movies, either based on accuracy or just they're damn entertaining?
For entertainment, Hunt for Red October. And one of the things in the sonar shack with Jonesy at the very beginning, you'll see as they pan across as he's training Seaman Beaumont, there's a little roll of toilet paper. That's accurate because we used that little China markers to write down like formulas and stuff on our little stack. And we used the little toilet paper thing to rub out our mistakes. And so that's accurate. So somebody that was on a submarine was on that movie. The other one that's probably the most accurate to how submarine life is got to be Down Periscope.
Oh yeah.
The Kelsey Grammer movie.
Yeah.
We're nuts. You know what I mean? We're a bananas type of people. We don't have time for a lot of pomp and circumstance. And sonar, was my character in that.
Thank you, Matt. And yeah, I mean, think about who that branch would attract. Being under the polar caps and the sub, and they could stay under for indefinitely. So that was my first favorite whale-based theme.
Whale song.
Find Jonah in the belly of the whale. That's my second favorite whale song. Yeah, you guys should watch a little Love Boat and a little Partridge Family just to kind of see where we were at in the 70s.
It's kind of cheating if you write a whale song, but you just go whale song. That's like writing a song about love and just going love song.
Yeah, no, I know. And also, you bussing the whale in to perform in front of you. I mean, come on.
It's defeating your purpose.
I'm gonna write a
Cure
song
had a
about a
great song called
car.
Love Song.
Car song,
Car song.
4 wheels on it.
I like obviously they were just shitting this stuff out and handing it over. The Keith was like, "Oh, thank Christ, I don't have to sing the fucking whale song," because he normally has to do the heavy lifting. Everyone else has to just pretend to play an instrument behind him. Do we have our song, Max Batson?
Jonah? I mean, there's a bunch of versions of this one. Just any.
The one that was a hit.
Okay, let me look.
You've heard it. You've heard it in my car before a few times. Let me talk to you. I don't have the spot, by the way, that you want either, Max Pata. Phil, 42, North Hollywood.
Hey, Adam, how you doing?
What's going on?
Being about.
Mm-hmm.
So I was listening. Hello, I was listening to yesterday's podcast, and it spurned a lot of ideas in my mind. I work in artificial intelligence, doing machine learning training, things like that. And with the advent of COVID, a lot of ideas are being very quickly accelerated. And when you guys were talking about the attack row concept, the police going away, the power vacuum, I was wondering, you've got to know that in China and in private industry, they're accelerating and putting the gas on fully kind of automated AI-driven police forces, things that were probably from automated vehicles to drones to, Boston Dynamic type robots. I was wondering what your take is on that, and if the U.S. is ready for that. I think that it may be time. I would caveat it to say that you can absolutely have it so that they're 100% non-lethal if that's the charter. But I just wanted your take on
RoboCop and how did that turn out?
No.
Yeah.
You know how this ends.
Well,
Fucking Ed 209 running around.
yeah. Look, I like technology, and I like technology in the hands of Elon Musk, but I don't like it so much for the government. I worry that here's what I worry about. Our government was sort of the initial plan was, you guys pave the roads and have a fire department and an army and police force and try to keep the water clean, and then you kind of get out of the way and let everyone just kind of go about their life as long as they're being safe and they're paying their taxes and they're not hurting other people. But like I've always said, take beavers and put them on top of the Empire State Building. They're going to start looking for wood to build a dam because that's what beavers do. They just build a dam. And I'm now realizing that the people we elect to govern, they like a little governing and they like a lot of governing, and they just want to kind of keep governing. Like that, the idea is like, hey, look, you take a bunch of people and you put them in a room and you go, all right, you guys come up with some rules. And they go, oh, okay. But that's their marching orders. Then they're doing what they're doing. I always tell people, look at the sign at the beach. Now, we can't use the beach right now, but the sign every year gets 2 more things you can't do on the beach. Well, it's not a coincidence that there are 2 more things every year. It's because they're making rules. That's what they're doing. What else would they do? You put them in a place and pay them to make rules.
They're called lawmakers.
Right. And they never peel them off, and they never undo them, and they never whatever. Anyone who has dealt with the Department of Building and Safety for as long as I have knows that every time you show up 18 months later or 2 years later, you go, okay, I want to, and they go, oh, no, we're not doing that anymore. You have to do this, and now you do that. And then you go, well, we're going to shear wall one side. No, we're going both sides now. Now they need both sides. And you go, oh, okay. And then they go, oh, so 1/2-inch anchors. And I go, no, 5/8. They moved. And every time I go, oh, we always used 1/2-inch. I go, no, they moved it up. They're doing a different thing. I don't know. It's like the ticket price in Disneyland used to be $9. Now it's $189. You think it's going to start rounding down and going the other?
Doubtful.
No, it just keeps going. So that's the part about the government that scares me. Is it just feels like I'd like them to utilize this technology. I'm now starting to worry about what they would use it for and what they would enforce, and also become abundantly clear to me that they've figured out who can give them money and who can't give them money. And if you're homeless or you're here illegally or you want to, Mark Garagos's business is shut down. The guys selling hot dogs on the sidewalk in front of his business are not shut down. They're what you call empty bags, and the government seems to keep walking when they see them. So this scares me as a taxpayer. We have Burning Sensations, 1983, with one of my my second favorite whale-themed song ever. Whale song. It's a little more nuanced.
Oh, a conch shell.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody's
Shofar,
got a
come
problem.
on.
It's awesome, please.
This is the only reggae beat-approved song in my repertoire. Good bass line. Video hasn't aged a day.
What kind of crazy party is this?
Are they like backstage at a rehearsal for?
Everyone was high on coke in the 80s.
Okay.
The Pirates of Penzance.
Whenever the big fella cracks a grin, and when the time and the place is right, we sit down, sip
You sip your bouillabaisse?
He's trapped in the belly of a whale.
Oh.
He's got a candle. He can get a lot of reading done. Not for him. He's in the belly of a whale.
Well, people that well.
It's going to kick in.
Boy, I hope so.
Oh, here we go. Burning sensations. All right, you get the riff. I love this song.
I like whale song better.
Got a big end. Sing a little whale song. Get to the end of that song. It kicks at the end, Max Zapata. Sing a little whale song, Gina.
Whale song, majestic mammal swims through the water so proud. Is that what she says? I don't know.
Well, I've always said the mark of garbage in art is if you can just free form exactly what Shirley Partridge did, and I can't really tell the difference. Like she's singing, they're singing, the words are the same. I don't know, one's better or worse. You're literally just doing.
Yeah.
That. You know what? It's why we love sports. Because I can't go, hey, Michael Jordan, give me that basketball. Clear out of here. Now check it
Let me
out.
show you something.
Check it out. I'm going to do a 360 jam myself. Like, what would that look like?
Yeah.
But you can just do what she did.
Yeah.
All right.
Hold on.
Thank you.
We'll give you the end.
I don't think it's a compliment to me. I think it's an
not-
insult to Shirley Jones.
It is. Sorry. We'll play the end. Ah, sacked.
Oh, Parrot.
That must have been an English band. I don't think they had any other hits.
No, they're from LA.
Oh, that's right. I looked them up before.
They're also known for covering Pablo Picasso in the movie Repo Man.
Oh, well, there you go.
Okay.
And the singer Tim McGovern, the founder at least, was a member of the Motels.
Oh, the Motels.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
guys
same,
remember the
yeah.
Motels?
Who was the chick in that?
Martha Davis?
Martha.
Yes.
Suddenly one summer, I think. They had a couple of suddenly.
Martha Davis.
Only the Lonely.
Only the Lonely. Yeah, they had a couple of hits. I think she died early or something, or tragically or something.
Martha Davis?
I think so.
I know she
No,
used to
she-
come on
She's alive.
Sam
Oh.
Phillips show on KLSX all the time.
I got her mixed up with the Divinals. I touched
Oh,
myself,
yeah.
lady.
She
All
did
right,
die.
let me hit Dodge here. Summer, best time to join the Brotherhood of Muscle, and that's what you'll do when you get with Dodge. Dodge, they got power dollars, $10 off, based on the total horsepower of your Dodge. Every 2020 Challenger, Durango, and Charger. Enjoy the sweet sounds of the Dodge Charger SRT Scat Packs, 485 horsepower. That is bang for your buck, man. 485 horsepower, and you get $4,850 off. You see how that works? Have you done the math? The summer power dollars are back, and it's on. You can get it on the Dodge Durango, performance-driven SUV. This is a fast SUV. Makes summer trips a breeze. Fit everyone in the Durango's 7-passenger seating capacity as well. Get more power and get more horsepower and get more grunt, man. It is simple. Hurry to your local Dodge dealer. Now, take advantage of the Dodge Power Dollars. All right, let's see. Yeah, Chrissy Applet, I think, died in 2013 Divinals. Let's take ourselves a quick break. Come right back to the news with Gina Grad right after this.
Give me the news with Grad. News with Gina Grad. Breaking viral all those crazy Trump tweets. Give me news with Gina Grad. Trouble in the Middle East. Celebrity drunk meltdowns. Deep news with Gina Grad.
The news with Gina Grad.
Well, just to give a few more details, and I'm sure we can find many more on Reasonable Doubt with Adam and Mark, but Ghislaine Maxwell, at least that's the way I've heard it pronounced through multiple podcasts about Epstein, she has been arrested. She's known as the former girlfriend, confidant of Epstein. She's accused of conspiring with the late financier to sexually abuse young girls and groom them for sex with Epstein's wealthy associates. Maxwell was arrested in Bedford, New Hampshire, and is due to appear in court later today as we record this. Several of Epstein's accusers have identified Maxwell as his madam who helped to exploit dozens of underage girls. Her arrest comes almost 1 year after Epstein's suicide. Epstein refused to say when he was alive that she assisted him in any way. So I guess he was pretty protective of her. And also, she's the heiress of late British media tycoon Robert Maxwell. So she came from a certain pedigree.
Yeah, I'm interested in hearing.
What did Mark say? What were his thoughts or impressions?
He took a deep dive into Barr and that he got a little over my head on what was going on from a legal standpoint. He sort of he didn't throw out any names. He didn't really have any real concerns just yet, but he's definitely interested in. I mean, obviously they're going to try to get her to roll over on a bunch of people. They're not interested in her. They're interested in what she knows, and so they're going to get her to sing. I do want to say this. We have to be careful. I'm interested in hearing all the stories, but the pictures where there's the drunk guy and his arm is around her, that is not evidence, because I've taken so many pictures with so many assholes when I'm drunk at some place or some party or something. We all do that thing where it's like, look at them, there's a picture, and their arms around the other guy. It's like I have 700,000 of those of me with people that are possibly racist, pedophiles, murderers, the worst members of our community. I'm sure there's a picture of me with all of them.
Yo, if you just get me after a live show or a cruise, and I will run up and jump on you and kiss your cheek for a picture. Oh my God.
Yes. So that we're going to need more than that. But I'll be curious to see. He said that they're also, I think, going after the pilots. You know, think about his personal pilots. I mean, the personal pilots have the flight manifest, right? And those guys, who knows better than those two who's on and off that plane? I mean, they made every single flight, theoretically, whereas everyone else sort of traded out.
Especially if someone notable, you're gonna be like, yeah, Bill Clinton was on that plane. I remember that very well.
Right. So we shall see.
Yeah. Meanwhile, a big congrats and a huge mazel tov to Russian President Vladimir Putin. He may not be leaving office for a while after official results published by the Kremlin show that nearly 78% of voters have approved constitutional changes, allowing Putin to run for 2 more 6-year terms after his current one ends in 2024. So if he chooses to remain in office for 2 more terms, he'll be 84 when he leaves office.
You guys aren't old enough to have felt probably the full yo-yo effect, but the Cold War was raging hard when I landed on the planet. First 16 years of my life, maybe 17 years, it was Cold War, Cold War, Cold War, mutually assured destruction, blah, blah, blah. Then we got into this perestroika stuff where it's like, oh, okay. Oh, hey, good news. Moving toward the light. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall. And it was like, woo, David Hasselhoff's performing a song over there in German. And he's singing the whale song on the wall. And we're feeling pretty good about ourselves. And now it's right back. Now it's back.
Well, he's been president for 20 years, and there was little doubt the referendum would pass, according to NBC News. So I think he would be, 16 years from now would be Oh, two 6-year terms after he's done in 2024. So he's going to be around a while. And the people clearly have a lot of confidence in him because that was an overwhelming majority
that's
approval.
if he wins in 2024, Gina.
Well, that's a very good point.
Possibility.
It's I know we never blame the people, but I like to blame the people. There's certain groups that really want to be led by a strong-armed guy versus we're not really wired that way. We want to do our own thing. But certain groups like we need Saddam Hussein in there, keeping the law. Like there's a certain population.
You don't think we're wired that way? I think that was Trump's. Not he's not a killer like Saddam Hussein or like going to keep people in line with mustard gas. But I think most of his appeal was I'm tough. I'm going to America first. That whole thing. I think the tough guy thing is what people responded to.
Well, there's two angles, two ways to think about this. One is the 47% of the country likes it. The other wants to burn it down. So it's still not us. You know what I mean? Point. I mean, it's literally, obviously he won the Electoral College, but he lost the popular vote. So of people who voted, it's a smaller group that wants that. Number two, there's a difference between sort of patriotic and being sort of bossed around and bossing around, other countries. I think they have a kind of a tough guy kind of a mentality. Like they like Russia being tough and being in charge and sort of being number one or whatever their version of that is. And whoever you voted for, I think we're a little more live and let live, but certain cultures certain cultures are attracted to that. Well, look, certain women like a guy who's the boss and he's in charge and he's going to protect them and he's going to fight for them and stuff. And then others want the guy with the man bun who's,
sensitive.
Yeah, sensitive. I mean,
those are our choices.
I think they want they want the Dolph Lundgren type. So
I guess I'm in charge.
It's kind of, they also have a sort of pride in that they should probably. As I go through this life, I worry about people with pride and nations with pride and too much pride. It tends to. It's sort of like, who cares if my life's shit and I'm an alcoholic and the stores are empty? We're going to show everyone who we are. Like we're going to regain this power, this greatness or something.
I don't know enough. I know nothing about their election process, but how much of that percentage do you think is people that are truly afraid that they will be exposed, their vote will be exposed, and they'll find out who you voted for?
I'm sure it's all a shit show, and like who knows who do we think would come up behind him? You know what I mean? Like what if he didn't get in, and then who's the next person? You know what I mean? It's like.
Kim Jong-un, Kim Jong-il.
You're right. All right. Mexico gets one guy who then gets in with the drug cartels, and then the next guy gets in and gets in with the drug cartels. Like, anyway, I wish it'd be so nice if these countries could get their shit together. It'd be so nice. 2020.
Big ask.
Right. Yeah, I know.
Speaking of that, I thought I had a story about the drug cartels that I wanted to tell you. Shoot, maybe I don't. I'll just mention. Oh, here it is, right here. Speaking of which, armed members of a Mexican drug gang stormed into a private drug rehab facility 2 days ago, and opened fire, killing 24 people, wounding 7 others. Authorities in central Mexico, the city of Irapuato.
24 people.
Yes.
In a drug rehab facility?
In a drug rehab facility, and I'll give you a possibility as to why that happened.
Was it a witness thing?
Say gunmen appeared to have ordered everyone inside the facility to lie down on the floor and then shot them all. No motive has been given for the attack, although authorities say the city has been the site for a turf war between a drug cartel and a local drug group. It was reported, I don't know if this was NBC News, it may have been, but it says oftentimes drug dealers in Mexico seek refuge inside rehabs to hide from cartel members. So they could have been hiding out there, but unclear at this point.
Well, Ed Calderon's coming on a little later this month, so we'll definitely get into this with him. This happened yesterday?
As people hear this 2 days ago.
Yeah. God damn. Our news is so Trumped and COVID-19 up that the fucking... And by the way, Mexico is such a shit show that they executed 24 people. It's like, I never even heard of this. I mean,
Yeah.
what? This is a
Tried to keep it COVID light today.
This is a big goddamn. That's a big story, and it's like, they're not even. It's two sad things. One is we're all over Trump and COVID, and the other thing is we don't expect that much out of Mexico, because if this happened in Canada, don't you think we'd be hearing about it?
Something to be up.
Right. This has now become sort of Chicago's inner city. Like, a couple of kids got shot. Moving on. It's what they do. You know what I mean? Like, all you have to do is we have a border with Canada. We have a border with Mexico. If in Canada they rounded up 24 people, put them on a floor and executed them, I think we'd hear about it.
Yeah. It also says drug gangs are also known to recruit new members at rehab facilities. So
this isn't working.
Yeah, that's not the way. Seems that there's a tie there, but unclear what the reason is and if we'll ever find out. So back to some political stuff. A group of officials who worked for the campaigns and administration of President George W. Bush have announced the formation of 43 alumni for Biden. It's a new super PAC designed to convince Republicans who aren't satisfied with Trump to vote for Biden. And the super PAC says, quote, principles matter more than politics. That's why we, a group of alumni who served President Bush and other Republican presidents, governors, and members of Congress, support Joe Biden for president. Together, we can help restore decency, honor, dignity, and true leadership to the White House.
I think I had the chaos theory a while back, and I'm sticking with it. I think if we can be chaotic enough in this country up until close enough to the election that people are just going to fuck it. I just want it all to stop. I just want to get back to normal. I don't care who's in there. Just get in there. Let's just get back to normal. I think that's the theory. I'm sticking with it, and I think it's going to be effective.
I've seen a lot of people, random people, tweeting similar versions of that theory. So it feels like it's kind of bubbling to the surface. Like people just want to break. People just want out of the madness.
Well, and Joe Biden isn't Nader, or Bernie. I mean, Joe Biden, I would imagine, is considered as moderate and conservative as you're going to get on the Democrat side. So, I'm sure all those guys go way back.
Oh,
it doesn't matter what party they are.
He's not even, he probably would have been unrecognizable politically 25 years ago to what kind of stuff they talk about today. The worry is that he's going to be dictated to by the AOCs of the world. That's kind of the worry, that he's not that woke and he's not that radical and he's not that anything, but he's going to have to start acting that way to satisfy that branch of the party. Let's hope.
Well, how well is that going to work when he's constantly challenging people to fight in push-up contests?
It really is.
He's feisty, man. All right, let's do one more, Gina Grad.
Oh, good. This is if we get to nothing else today, this is the most important story. The 2020 edition of Nathan's Famous Hot Dog Eating Contest that is on July 4th every year will now be open for legal betting in 3 states for the first time. Gaming officials in New Jersey, New Hampshire, and Colorado have approved betting on the event, allowing legal sports books to set odds and take wagers. In New Jersey, wagers will be limited to the event itself and must be in before the contest begins. So if you live in one of those 3 states and you want to bet on either, I think Joey Chestnut for the men and Mickey Sudo for the women are the favorites.
It's weird. I was looking at some COVID stats today, and I looked at the list. I was a little surprised. New York was on top with 32,000 deaths. I was just looking at deaths or deaths per 100,000 or something. The place that is a complete shit show is New Jersey, who we've kind of skipped past New Jersey. It's like everyone
does.
I know it's like New York, New York, and then we go Texas, Florida, Texas, Florida, Texas, Florida, California, Texas, Florida. Texas is 4,000 people dead. Arizona's 2,000. Florida's 6,000 or something. New Jersey's 15,000. But somehow,
really,
we're all New York. And, New York's 32, and then New Jersey's 15, and then everyone else is 4,000. And we just went right past them.
And pound for pound, think of how many New Jerseys you could fit inside Texas.
Right.
I mean, my God.
I watched the news. It's like we do some New York and then we go to Texas and we go to Florida and then we pop back to California and maybe a little dusting of Arizona. I've not heard there's no New Jersey talk, and they're the second. They have the second most, and a lot.
crazy.
I mean, and by they've got 15,000 deaths, which is 3 times as much as Texas, or 4 times as much as Texas, or many of these other places we keep talking about, and we don't do good or bad. Like we don't do praise for the governor. Well, this guy's killing people in old age homes. It's like I haven't heard anything about New Jersey, and they're bad.
Do you think it's because everyone considers New Jersey New York's tugboat, and we just assume if it's happening in New York, it's happening in New Jersey?
Texas has 2,500 deaths. California has 6,000, and New Jersey has over 15,000.
My only guess, and I don't know for this to be a fact, someone can verify this, do they have a lot of deaths early on and it's tapering off like New York? Or because the stories now, of course, are who's increasing, right? Texas and Florida. So my only guess is that maybe 3 months ago news. I don't know.
Well, we'll look more into it, and the stories are really, the deaths aren't going up that much. The real story is infections, and then are the infections going to result in deaths? I don't know, Max Paddock, can you read that or figure that out? Let's see.
Yeah, so, New
York is almost 32, California is 6+, Texas is 2,500, New Jersey's 15,000, Florida's 3,500. I mean, how much more Florida talk have you heard than New Jersey?
And New Jersey, I assume the number underneath is the increase, and if it is, then New Jersey has a huge increase, and New York has 11. Which I'm assuming, I don't know for a fact, but that's what I would.
Now, here's the other thing, too. Massachusetts has 8,000, which just gets it under New Jersey and way above Florida and Texas and California. It's like we haven't had any Massachusetts talk either. All right. We'll get into more of that in the upcoming shows. Let me hit True Niagen. I've been taking cellular health vitamin True Niagen for a few months now, and I feel fantastic. Dr. Drew's been hitting this stuff for, I guess, a number of years now. As we get older, our bodies experience a near 50% decline in NAD, which negatively affects the health of our cells and body. Lifestyle stressors like intense exercise, lack of sleep, stress on the immune system, overeating, also deplete NAD because cells expend more energy to function. Backed by Nobel Prize winning scientists, clinical research, and global regulatory approvals as well. Support cellular energy and defense. Visit True Niagen. That is TruNiagen.com. Use the code Adam. This is the real deal. Take it every day. Get $20 off any 3-month plus supply ending July 31st. Travis Pastrana is coming up next, so we'll hop on with him. Gina Bald, great job, and we'll see you guys soon. And we'll take a quick break, come back with Travis Pastrana right after this. Travis Pastrana has joined us. Travis is 36 years young. God, I feel like I've known your name for 20 years now. The TV show, Life Size Toys, it premieres this Monday, July 6th on Quibi. And I'll tell you about it in a second because I watched it last night. So great job, Travis, and thanks for joining us.
Dude, thanks a lot for having me on. I appreciate it.
I'm a big fan of yours because I like people that have a good relationship with fear. And I think you have a very possibly too healthy a relationship with fear. But I'm worried that a lot of people around me are freaking out because of this whole pandemic. And I don't really care, but I think I have a good relationship with fear. I'm guessing you're not freaked out about COVID-19 either because of your relationship with fear, but you tell me.
No, I mean, life is a calculated risk. And definitely my mother-in-law, she was out here when, everything kind of stopped, the world stopped, if you will. And definitely doing my best to try to be proactive in washing hands and everything like that. But, at the same time, it's it's tough, being the touring and live action sport has come. I mean, the world came to a stop, but live action sport has definitely come to a stop. And even as we're starting to get going again, I mean, I got a rally race this next week, but my number one mechanic is from England and my co-driver is also from Europe. So I'll be doing that without those guys. So it's I guess I have faith that the powers that be are smarter than I am, and they'll tell us what's going on. But definitely, when it's your time, it's your time.
Does rally racing seem relatively calm and somewhat easy compared to all the stuff you're doing on two wheels?
No, actually, kind of the contrary. I think racing, you push yourself the hardest. So rally, there's no safety barriers. You could be going 150 mile an hour with a 200-foot cliff on your outside in the snow at night while it's raining. So there's a lot of factors. It's kind of making the best of the worst, if you will. Like even NASCAR, you're not necessarily worried about dying per se, but still, like, you have to be so spot on and precise that the nerves and the adrenaline and actually take over more to trying to do the best that you can, as opposed to worrying about livelihood, I guess.
So for you, you have the daredevil gene, I guess. I'll just call it gene. I had it too. It's the kids. It shows itself early because you have thoughts like, hey, man, if we got up on the roof, I think we could clear the patio and make it into the pool. If we got a running start and jumped off the roof, like I think we could hit the deep end of the pool. We'd have to clear some of the patio first. But you start having those thoughts at an early age. As soon as you get a bike, you want to jump the bike. Is that how you started?
Oh, without a doubt. So my dad, he's one of 6 brothers in a family, and my grandfather was Golden Glove boxer. They were all Division I sports. My uncle actually played quarterback for Denver Broncos for a couple of years. So all my cousins were more athletic, stronger than I was, got beat up all the time as a kid, realized that I was super durable, which worked out great. And that also I needed a motor because my legs weren't as strong as my peers. Or at least my family. So at the end of the day, I realized that when most people panic, that's when I came alive. I felt like when the world was perfect, I was just bored and not as good. But when you put everything on the line, when most people kind of back down, that's when my mind started working. That's when I started getting excited and actually engaging. So I feel like a lot of contact sports in general, like if you can slow down what's going on around you when things hit the fan, that's a quality you're going to need. I mean, even a quarterback, you look at football, he's got so much coming at him. He knows if he makes a mistake, he's going to get pummeled. But you have to make those decisions on a fly.
Yeah. Being able to slow things down. That's and being able to slow yourself down. Like when you get strapped into the car and you sit in the car for long periods of time, oftentimes before the race or after, but you spend a lot of time in a 6-way harness with a Hans device on and everything all strapped in and net up in the window, and you're sitting in a roll cage, and you could a lot of people would freak out. Like a lot of people would feel claustrophobic or like they couldn't breathe or something like that. But you probably get into some, I don't know, is it like when a computer goes to a sleep mode or something where you just kind of go zen? Because I've done a lot of car racing, and I know what that feeling is of just sort of being almost, it's not like you're sleepy, but it's almost like you've turned your senses off because you're strapped in. You're almost overwhelmed how much you're strapped in.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Every time I see you get in the car and everything, and definitely it's a different experience. It's something that a lot of people don't like. My family, myself, I live for those moments when everything's on the line. And, that's the difference between now, and I'm realizing more and more so, with COVID and everything, we've been doing a lot of online racing. And it takes everyone to put them on a completely even playing field when you're doing sim racing, because there's no adrenaline, there's no consequence. So I feel like the world, when there's a consequence, like take rally, for example, there's a 200-foot cliff on the outside. You know that if you hold it wide open, you'll probably not go off that cliff, but most people will back it down a little more just because of the cliff, not because they don't think that they can stay inside of that at the fastest speed they can go. So it's making those commitments and understanding what your ability level is, not being crazy, but knowing what you're capable of and sticking with that. So when you're in a car, you have to understand, and it's tough now with all the safety, because it's actually made it more difficult and more crashes probably happen because, like you said, you're strapped in this car. It's usually 30 degrees warmer than outside. So if you're in a NASCAR and it's 100 degrees outside in Daytona on 4th of July weekend, it's 120, 130 degrees in the car. So you're sitting in a sauna, you're strapped in, you're in a suit that's basically like a sweatsuit. You can't move your neck, you can't move anything. You're going 4 wide at 200 miles an hour into a corner, and you can't see the car on either side of you, and you can't see over the tailgate of the car in front of you. And it's like that moment you kind of take a deep breath and you're like, you look for there's a Sunoco sign. And as soon as you see that, you can't even tell when the corner's coming. You just turn the wheel, and everyone's going to do the same thing. And if anyone makes a mistake, that's when it gets intense, because now all of a sudden everyone's fumbling and you're listening to your spotter. So for me, like, the more stimulus there is, the more exciting the world becomes.
So, Travis, for me, watching you do a backflip rooftop to rooftop in a couple buildings in LA, maybe 8 or 10 stories off the ground, although it's academic. If it's 3 stories or 25 stories, you don't make it. But that is one of the hairiest. There's 2 super hairy things I've seen, and I've been around since Evel Knievel. You doing the backflip rooftop to rooftop was completely and utterly insane. And whoever the fella was who jumped the bike in Vegas and landed on top of
Matto, Arc de Triomphe, New Year's No Limits. That was awesome.
The hairiest.
Coming back down
Was the hairiest part. It wasn't going up. It was coming down that seemed totally insane to me. Did that seem totally insane to you?
Yeah, Matto's 100%. Because, hey, look, if you're going up, you can usually get out of things and you're not falling as far. Going down, if he goes too far, which he went a little too far, his actually thumb bent completely around backwards. He went straight into surgery after that, even though he was able to pull it off. The risk is so high. So I jumped out of a plane without a parachute, and my friend met me on the way down. You do the thing roof to roof. But if you make a mistake, it's going to really suck anyway. So for me, adding what you're jumping over, it's kind of like they say the fawn's jumping the shark. Like, yeah, it really doesn't matter what you're clearing. Like, we hydroplane across lakes and rivers and stuff, and they're like, well, how deep was it? Like, I don't know. Your tire's only going down 2 inches. So for me, I've always been able to kind of take that away. Look, if you come up short on a 100-foot jump, you're going to break both your wrists at the best. So does it really matter? There's a 10-story drop. Yeah. I mean, you're going to break both your wrists. You're going to fall for a few seconds. You're going to die. So I understand that, but there's always risk. And if you know you can do it, then you can do it.
Do you, when you're doing something like that 10-story rooftop to rooftop, how far apart were the takeoff and the landing ramp?
So that was the part that made it difficult, because your motorcycle can go approximately 85 feet in second gear. I'm not exactly sure what the speeds are on that, but the roof, when we got there, it was on an incline. So it was 8 degrees incline. So 8 degrees steeper for takeoff, 8 degrees steeper on the other side for landing, just for runoff, I guess.
Pitch. For drainage. Right.
Right. So when I got there thinking I got to hit this in second gear, now I realized that all the training that I did had absolutely no effect or no bearing on how fast I had hit that jump. So that made that more difficult, because now I had to shift up like on the way to the takeoff ramp, which if you hit neutral or miss your shift, you can't stop in time after that.
Right.
And if you miss it, then you don't have the speed to make it. So the shift actually made it very difficult. To do that.
So did you take off in second gear or third gear?
So it took off there in third gear. As you can see, I pulled. So I figure if you're going to crash, you might as well, it's going to hurt anyway. You might as well make it look good. So did a backflip with what they call a knack on that one, but it was steeper than the takeoffs that I normally take off on. So I was over rotating, and lucky I didn't blow off the back, because probably would have shot right off the other building.
So if you're going to hit a ramp like that in second gear, then you would start in second gear.
That is correct. As you know, you can, with a dirt bike, you can usually start fairly good in second. Honestly, with the new 450s, if this was a little bit more modern, we probably could have just done the whole thing in third gear, and they have a lot of torque. But
because they're thumpers? Are we talking about thumpers?
Talking about thumpers.
Right.
They were called thumpers for their sound, and they always thumped you into the ground when they misfired. But now they're better.
4 strokes. Right.
Yes.
God, I had a Honda 250 Elsinore. I had a
yes.
I had a red racer. I had a Red Racer Honda, like the first kind of real dedicated sort of factory motocross bike was a Honda. Had a plastic tank when they used to all have metal tanks. It had twin shocks in the back, but they would lay them down, sort of. Not fond of the drum brake in the front, but a Honda Elsinore 250 Red Race. Max Pata, there is a picture of me doing a wheelie in the backyard of a house I rented in North Hollywood on that Honda Elsinore 250 Red Racer. So you
have no idea how happy this makes you right now. That is awesome. That's a good pull.
I'm going to show you a picture of me doing a wheelie in the backyard of my North Hollywood rented house in that thing, and I'll show you a picture of me jumping my BMX bike when I was 10, too, in my front yard of another.
Yes.
Are you seeing that?
Dude, no, that was honestly, that was the start of the Honda era. That was the beginning of when it used to be when men were men and bikes were crap. And that Honda Elsinore came out and said, man, this is a real machine. This is the closest thing to the modern day bike we had.
Yeah. I remember the thing I remember very clearly. And again, I'm older than you, but that back before there was monoshocks and disc brakes, right? So the front of this thing had a drum brake. And the drum had a little fork that came off the hub, and it grabbed the cable where you could adjust the tension on the brake and then work the front brake. But the little forks broke off, and I could never weld them back on or fix it or do anything. So I never had a front brake. And we used to do a lot of hill climbing. And
you got to come back down.
And you got to come back down. And coming back down with no use of the front brake means just lock up the rear and fucking hang on. Like that, you're going to go flying down that hill. But yeah, you think, well, you don't want to grab the front brake hard. But if you have no front brake and you're going down that hill and your whole brake ballast, like everything is just shifted forward, it's hairy.
Yeah, no, that's some days of or On Any Sunday type stuff with Malcolm Smith coming back down the hill when everyone else was walking.
Yeah, there's a picture, Max, of me jumping that thing like in the desert on top of someone's hill or something too. But anyway, look, I don't do 1/100th of what Travis does, but what I'm saying is I do understand that feeling of being on a bike and getting airborne, and in a weird way, I appreciate what you do. Well, there I am on my BMX bike when I'm 11. I
love that ramp. Sorry to interrupt, but the ramp is, I mean, look at that. It's rocks. It's 2x4s cut, plywood takeoff. It looks like duct tape to the top. I mean, that is very, very, that's ingenious, really.
We did not have a lot of technology back then in North Hollywood in the 70s, but I totally understand what it's like to get on a 250 and get airborne. And that's why doing a somersault or a twin double backflip feels, or anything else you do on that bike, I think I appreciate it more than someone who's never been on a bike and never been in the air on a bike. I have that much more respect for it.
It's really funny when we take people out in cars and driving, and you take someone out that you would think would be really scary, but they have no real concept of speed or when you should brake. You take someone out that's a pretty good driver, and you put them passenger in a rally car with, a rally cross car, maybe with 700 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 1.8 seconds. And you're coming up on the tree line and over a crest fully sideways. And those people know that they would have hit the brakes a long time before you're hitting the brakes with the kind of the technology we have and the all-wheel drive. It's the people that understand their immediate danger that are actually more scared than the people that haven't experienced it. So it's awesome to hear that you've gone through all the same childhood experiences we have.
Well, I ate shit 1,000 times, and I learned to kind of respect what guys like you do, but I also kind of learned to respect the pavement, like you got to have a relationship. I wanted to have fun, but I was, you didn't want to hit the pavement as many times as I did. But you had that gene, and that's where you were growing up. And at what age did you start to sort of think, maybe there's a path here? Like maybe there's a way I can get paid to do this?
The money never really thought about it, to be honest. I mean, every kid, you want to be an astronaut or a firefighter, bull rider. I always wanted to be a dirt bike racer. And, we hit 10, 11, 12, 13. Most kids' realities kind of set in. For my parents, they were hoping that reality would set in, but it was keeping me in school with good grades, gave them some, carrot to dangle over me, if you will. And basically, my dad had a Harley. He sold that. Family had a boat. We sold that. Ended up with 2 mortgages on the house. My uncles, who all worked family construction, were basically taking pay cuts to pay for the fuel to get me to the races. And my dad said, "Hey, look, your Uncle Alan was the greatest athlete that's come out of Annapolis. He was quarterback for Broncos, and he still works at Anne Arundel Community College now. They call him Coach P, lacrosse and football. He teaches health class up there." I said, "You're never going to make a living doing what you love. But every day that you give it everything that you can, that you chase your dreams, that you love what you do, our whole family will support you in any way that we can." So for me, every single day that I've been able to do what I love to do, I've just tried to go until the wheels fall off. So it's never about the money. I made some horrible business decisions because I wanted to chase my heart. And I believe that's why I'm still in this sport now and still being able to make a living doing what I love to do, is because I always went with what I was passionate about, not necessarily what was the best business decision. Because at the end of the day, I'm making a living at a hobby. And that's something that you have to work really hard at, making a living at a hobby. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but there's so many people that want to do it. You better be passionate about it and willing to spend every second. People say, "What do you do in your off time?" I say, "I ride dirt bikes and drive cars." "Well, what do you do for fun?" "Ride dirt bikes and drive cars."
What do you do? So the process of coming up with a stunt, the process, do people come to you on your team? Do you sort of think about it and then go to them, rooftop to rooftop, or jumping out of an airplane with no parachute? Like, what's the genesis of the ideas? How does it work?
Everything is a little unique. For us, we decided very quickly when the Jackass guys helped us get the MTV show that if you're going to come up with an idea, you have to be at least willing to try that idea first. Because Knoxville was always like, "Let's get a bull." I'm like, "What? Why?" He's like, "It's great. It's a win-win." I'm like, "No, if the bull doesn't hit anyone, we won't air it because it's not good enough. And if the bull hits us, we're getting hit by a bull. That is a lose-lose." We have a very different understanding of that. So for us, it's about passion. People always say, "Oh, you push the guys." I'm like, no, guys that want to do stuff, that they go everywhere in the world. They ask everyone for help to learn a new trick or do something they see. If they want to do it, no matter where you are in the world, if it's action sports and it's big and you want to do it as safely as possible and you want people that can help you, you come to Nitro Circus and you say, "Okay, I want to do a quadruple backflip on a BMX bike." And we say, instead of saying no, we say, "Okay, what's your abilities? Have you done 3? How can you over rotate? What are the ramp angles? How high do you have to go?" And everyone says, "Oh, well, who builds your ramps?" Like, no, we do. The riders do. We weld our own stuff. We build our own stuff. So many parents are always coming and saying, "Oh, if our kids had what you guys had." I'm like, man, most of these guys, Josh Sheehan, only rider to ever triple backflip a dirt bike. He worked in the mines as soon as he was out of high school. A trade. He didn't even finish really high school, and went in and basically paid for his own way, built his own ramp, welded it, took it to the desert, and learned how to do a backflip. While I'm not recommending that route, the guys that make it in these sports put their heart and soul into it, and there's no amount of money worth putting your life on the line. But these stunts come not from someone director or anything. They come directly from the riders, because there's nothing that I could ever ask someone, "Hey, do you think you could try this?" That's putting their life on the line now. So if they're going to put their life on the line, it's got to be their idea.
And it's same for you.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ideas that come through. And for instance, History Channel came to us with the Evel Knievel concept. The Evel Knievel concept. They said, "Can you guys do a live stunt for us?" And they said it has to be something with history. And one of the guys, Dave Mateus, in the back of the room, raised his hand. He said, "If we're doing something with history, something that's going to show, our dad's generation, where action sports or where stuntmen have gone in action sports, and show the scooter generation where stunt came from with Evel Knievel and jumping cars and the showmanship." He's like, "We have a chance to bring 3 generations together and really give tribute to the kind of the man that started it all." So with that, I raised my hand after I told my wife literally like a week before. I was like, I'm not going to do anything stupid anymore. I'm really going to tone it down, honey. I promise. And then that came up. I was like, well, if we have a chance to jump Caesar's Fountain, which we called up and they said yes right away. I'm like, wow, careful what you ask for. You just might get it. And this is going to be an opportunity to give tribute. I'm like, I don't care if it's not that it's going to be raining, but it's raining, bike overheats, whatever happens, crash the first jump. I'm like, it has to be someone that understands what Evel was about, and that it was about the showmanship and the building this thing up. And even if everything goes wrong, he always said, you're not a failure until you fail to get back up. I'm like, that person that does this, if everything goes wrong, they crash out that first jump, unless they're dead, they better get back on that bike and do the next jump. So for me, that was an awesome opportunity. Luckily, everything went well, but just to give tribute and to kind of bring those generations together, and actually ended up with the #1 show on cable TV for the year. So for me, that was a huge honor, and kind of like everything else at Nitro, it starts from a small idea, and with everyone involved, usually it grows to whatever it ends up being.
As I recall, and I interviewed Evel Knievel shortly before he passed away, and it was funny. Evel's set in his ways, kind of a tough guy, and there's certain guys. It's funny, you're not wired this way, but there's certain guys when you start talking to them about their business, they don't like it. They go, no, let me tell you what's going on. And I was saying to him, Evel, what the guy's doing today is pretty amazing, but they have a lot of travel in their suspension. You run a Harley with a steel tank and about 2.5 inches of travel, meaning the distance between the back fender and the top of the rear tire. You just didn't have the suspension, you didn't have the materials, And he's like, what are you talking about? That Harley was the finest motorcycle ever built. And I was like, no, I know, but I'm saying the shit you were trying to do on essentially a street bike is insane. He's like, that was a great bike. And I was like, all right, I'm trying to compliment you, but I get it. You, as I recall, had to do the Evel Knievel stunts on a bike that sort of mirrored or closely mirrored Evel's bike, and not the highfalutin kind of double backflip 250s you're used to riding. Is that a true statement?
That is 100% true. And everyone was like, what'd you modify on it? I'm like, look, all we did was we added extra material to the back, because like Evel, every time I landed, the bikes aren't meant to fly. They're great bikes for flat tracking and everything. I think that whole movement of the older bike with a lot of horsepower is coming back, and the hooligan racing and everything, just fun racing on kind of older technology, if you will. But obviously the motors are better. The ramps, he had a wedge ramp, and it's the one thing that we did differently. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't bouncing going off the lip. Evel, man, it didn't matter if he knew he was going to make it or wasn't going to make it, how bad the ramp was, how slow the bike was. He just went. And that's what people came to see. They came to see this guy that if he said he was going to do something, he was going to do it. And they could live vicariously through this man that was seemingly fearless and such a showman, always put on the show. So for me, I wanted to give tribute to the show. And man, I've never jumped in high heel boots before.
Oh,
I don't think I've ever worn high heel boots before, but I had a leather suit. It was 110 degrees in Vegas. I had high heel boots that sucked.
No.
I had 3 inches of suspension travel, and oh man, it was pretty.
Yeah, I mean, Evel. That's the other thing. It's like Evel was wearing Beetle go-go boots on. I mean, it's insane what he did with how he did it. And if you watch his initial crash on at Caesar's Palace, his landing ramp looks like a bunch of like 4x8s or something, like put together and leaned over a van. Like, I mean, his landing ramps were like, I don't even know how he thought he was going to hit those landing ramps. And you said wedge versus something that was more progressive or something like that. Explain that.
So he took off on a takeoff that was between 15 and 20 degrees steep, but it went from 0 degrees to 15 degrees. There was no transition. So when you hit that, the bike with no suspension at 70, 80, 90 miles an hour, it compresses like you're hitting a wall and bounces. Well, Evel, his takeoff was only like 5 feet wide. His landing was maybe, one wide 8-foot sheet of plywood. And you're thinking, man, if you're going up bouncing and sideways, you better have that absolutely perfect. And you saw one of the guys that tried to jump Caesars actually missed the landing, just mostly because the ramps just weren't that good. So yes, everyone's like, oh, you broke Evel's record. I'm like, no, we modernized it. Like, basically we're giving tribute to him, but he would have wanted to go as far as he could have pushed it. So did we go further? Yeah, but we went further because we had the technology to make it easier to go. Evel's furthest jump was only 130 feet. At 14 years old, I jumped over 200. But the technology and the information, once you see someone do it, it becomes so much easier. So for me to go out there, and I think the longest jump that day was the Greyhound bus jump, which was 180 feet. And on a bike with no suspension, that's difficult. But we'd already been jumping a car, over 250 feet, which has very limited suspension as well. So we know a lot more about how things fly. And between Red Bull and Nitro Circus, we got a really good idea of all the data on weights and physics and stuff that Evel didn't have access to.
Yeah, it's interesting. You talk about a sort of wedge ramp. So like he'd go straight ahead and then he'd hit the ramp, and the ramp just sort of, you'd bottom out as you hit the ramp because it wasn't progressive. It's like, imagine, you can skate a pool because one wall's vertical and the bottom's flat, and then it transitions, and that's how you skateboard a pool. But what if the wall just met the bottom? You know what I mean? Like, how could you? Yeah, how would that work? And yeah, I never really thought about that. I always looked at his landing ramps, and I was like, God, that doesn't seem like a whole lot of width or technology there. So for you, and is there anything you're thinking about? Is there a holy grail of stunts? Is there something you've been thinking about trying and haven't tried yet? And then I'll back that out to when you are thinking, the first time you think about doing a double backflip at X Games, once that seed gets planted in your head, does it just stay there until you pull that thing off?
Now, this is not a great mentality maybe, but I feel like if you know something is possible, especially being where action sports is my livelihood, like it's almost my job to see it come to fruition. Whether it's myself or now as I'm getting older, it's helping somebody else learn from my mistakes and work on the ramp technology and the radiuses and the heights from there. But for me, the hardest trick that I ever did I did it the first time on a trampoline, a double backflip with a full twist, which is they call a half in, half out, basically. Backflip 180, front flip 180. And I did that back in 99 or 2000. I did it first time in a foam pit on a bicycle in 2003. Landed on a mountain bike for the first time in 2014. And then 2 years ago in 2017, I was able to land it on a dirt bike. So that was the holy grail for me. And the last thing that I felt I needed to do. And my wife was so upset. She's like, look, you're out here, you're filming for a video project that you're definitely going to lose money on. And you've already spent so much time figuring this out, and you could possibly die. Like, you're going, 75 feet in the air, 2 flips and a full twist with this dirt bike. Why? And I said, because I've spent my whole life wondering if it's possible, and I have to know. I have to at least give it 110% effort and see what I went wrong, what could have gone right. And by fate or dumb luck or whatever you want to call it, was able to ride out of that. And no one's still done it to this day, which is pretty cool for me, being how I was kind of already retired, if you will, at that point. But that's what it is. Like you said, if you know something can be done. So if you go to X Games 2006, kind of what I'm known the most for, live TV, Staples Center, sold out crowd, all on their feet. Everyone was heard about this trick that at the time seemed impossible. And everyone thought if he misses it, he's going to die. My mom's crying on the side. Everyone's on their feet. Everyone from all the different sports are there. And time seemed to slow down. I was like, it's going to work. But what people don't know is I was trying to switch over to cars at the time. And I'm sitting second to Colin McRae, who is a rally legend, world champion. He comes over to the U.S. Now, U.S., I think we got the best drivers on earth with NASCAR and IndyCar. But it's not taken seriously between the world guys with F1 and everything. They just don't see the technical. But those guys are perfect. They're amazing drivers. But so Colin comes over. I'm sitting second. That's where I want to go with my future. And here I am sitting third in this event for best trick. So I already have a medal if I don't even take my last run. And there's nothing really to gain. I mean, I can win this event, a couple $1,000s, great. But I have a chance to beat or at least race and finish with Colin McRae and go into rally cars. And that was my first time I was even close to leading a rally event. It's on this huge stage. And my best event was freestyle coming up. So it's like, all right, you've got everything to lose and nothing to gain. And I just thought about it. I thought, you know what? I can do it. Like I'm 8 for 10 in the foam pit. That's an 80% chance that this trick is going to work. Yeah, there's a 20% chance that I'm going to end up in the hospital, but I know I can make it. And I just had my rally team and my wife, girlfriend at the time, and everything just looking at me like, you're an idiot, but it worked.
Yeah.
You know it can, so you do it.
No, I know that it's a feeling. There's also kind of a feeling where you're leading up into it, and it in one sort of millisecond you have to commit to it. Like there's a version of it where you don't commit, where you just do one flip and kind of get out of it. Like there's a feeling where you go all in. There's like an all in, past the point of no return kind of feeling that, again, I'm picturing from the stupid stuff I did on my BMX bike, like where you're trying to, I used to like to jump sets of stairs. You know, there'd be 12 stairs. There was a parking lot. So I know exactly that feeling, which is there was a church that was across the street from Colfax Elementary, and it had like a set of 12 stairs, cement stairs with stucco walls about 5 foot wide on both sides of it. And I was never gutsy enough to jump the stairs on my BMX bike. And on 6th grade graduation, while everyone else was like wanted to get cake and hang out, whatever, I was like, now it's time to take on those stairs. And like, now you're a man. You're out of the 6th grade. You're officially a man, and you got to go conquer those stairs. Who have been haunting me for 3 years because I was too fucking scared to get a run at them and just go off them. And I remember while everyone else was like going, hey, we're going to have a barbecue, I was like, I got to go to the stairs. And I went across the street to the church, and I went up top, and I was like, now you're a man, and now you have to conquer these stairs. And I just jumped it. I just ate shit. I remember hitting the stucco wall on one side and rolling on the ground and everything. But I remember, like, you got to do those stairs. They're bugging you.
Now, my question to you is, would you have regretted more crashing, eating shit, or not having the guts to want to know if it would have worked?
Once I ate shit, I got up and I was like, all right, well, you did the stairs. You ate shit, but you did the stairs and you can move on. By the way, to the loading dock behind Gelson's supermarket, there was a 4 foot high cement loading dock. That was like, I can do that loading dock too. It's the same stupid shit. But I mean, yes, I was bothered by it. And on again, this is a much smaller scale than what you're doing. I'm saying it's the same feeling, I think, is what I'm talking about.
It doesn't change from your first time you get air, jumping a 5 foot tabletop or jumping literally a 400 foot double, over the Grand Canyon. It's pushing yourself and knowing that if you can do it, you're like, I need to become a man. And you test yourself. You're like, especially my dad always said, if you say you're going to do it, do it. So be careful what you say you're going to do, but be a man of your word. And I feel like he might have got that from Evel Knievel. Just like, if you think you can do it, don't talk about it. Don't brag about it. Be it. And that was, for me, like listening to that story, that's what I feel like my childhood. So many times you think of something and instead of saying, hey, I'm going to go do this, you just get up and you're like, I know I can do it. And you might be wrong, you might be right. But at the end of the day, that you had the guts to try it. And I feel like not being afraid to fail and also being accountable for your actions. Like in action sports, when you crash, you are fully accountable for your decision. Like it's going to suck. You're going to get broken. You're going to get hurt. And I feel like those are life lessons that really followed me through for everything I've ever done.
I think we might have your trick here. Chris went and found it. And tell me if this is it.
come down as you came, 28 foot tall takeoff.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. What a stuck landing on that. And yeah, that was, I've never seen anyone do that on a motorcycle or really
Still
anything.
haven't yet. So this is, they call it resi. It's hard plastic over basically like a 3 foot tall bag. So technically to be official, you got to do it to dirt, but I was just stoked. I wanted to prove that this could be done. Everyone's like, it won't go into the second rotation. I'm like, what do you mean it won't? Like every time I rotate the one, because I was trying to do a backflip 360 for 6 years, and just the way it came through, it didn't work. But I'm like, what if you added another rotation? So it's easier to do a double backflip with the 360 than a single backflip with the 360. Now that'll boggle everyone's mind, but it is a fact.
How much are you, not in what you just did, but let's just say you're just getting big air on a jump, sort of indoor, stadium style motocross riding, Jeremy McGrath style stuff. How much controlling of a bike can you do with the gyroscopic action of the rear wheel, whether you're accelerating or braking?
So the faster the wheels are spinning, the more it matters. So for instance, in a car, if you hit the handbrake, it stops the rear wheels. And if you do that at 50 miles an hour, not a lot happens. But if you do it at 100 miles an hour, that front end drops so fast, like you almost start a front flip. So same thing, monster trucks can take off and they can actually do a double backflip because the wheel mass is 30% of the total mass of the vehicle. Where if you look at a bicycle or even a motorcycle, the wheel mass is 6% or something. So the more of the vehicle's mass that is in the wheels, the more you can do it. So if you look at an RC car, you can take off, jump it straight, hit the gas and do a double backflip and then stop it. Because obviously the tires proportionally are pretty heavy and they spin exponentially from anything that's real.
Because I've seen guys jumping motorcycles and like the front end's up a little too high or the back end's up a little too high and they literally adjust it in the air, which I never really thought about. But there's a fair bit of adjustment, not when you're doing a double backflip, I guess, but when you're just doing motocross, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I like to ride the motocross track with my daughter always loves to go. We got little handlebars and foot pegs and stuff. And I was going over a small little jump, but I hit the rear brake and she's like, what just happened? I was like, rear brake. She's like, oh, and then I went over, hit the gas. So it's neat to have like a 5-year-old that's like, oh, so you hit the throttle and it comes up and you hit the brake. So yeah, teaching that to my
Did you say she's on the back of the bike?
No, the front. She's, never mind. Never happened. But yeah, hypothetically, some guy I knew.
Wow. You're so much better than my dad. So for you, racing. So would you say that you like competing and that competition could be with yourself if it needs to be, or it could be with other drivers, but either way, you just like that competition?
So I like racing with a checkered flag because it's not necessarily being better. It is simply bringing your competition down to your level, figuring out a way to equalize the playing field. And like in NASCAR, there is, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. Not they're cheating, but you look at the rule book and you say, okay, what hasn't been thought of? How can I get more downforce without breaking any of the rules that are officially written down? And I like that aspect. I like that aspect in all sport. And everyone's looking for that little competitive edge at the very top. Freestyle is different. And what's really neat about X Games is if you look at Tony Hawk's 900 back, 99 X Games, these guys have a chance. There's, $30,000 on the line for first place. Like these guys, no one's getting paid anytime outside of that in the year. Everyone has day jobs at this point in action sports. So like pretty much a full year's paycheck is going to come out of this one event. And even the guy that's currently leading that event after the time is yelling at X Games, no, keep it going. We want to see this guy land it. And it's about pushing the human spirit, pushing what's physically possible and what people think is impossible, and going beyond those boundaries. And that sounds a little deep for this, but at the end of the day, Tony Hawk landed that trick after time because all of his peers, instead of saying, no, I want to win, said, I want to see something be done tonight that has never been done before. And I feel like that's what separates most sport from freestyle or action sports, because it's not necessarily about winning, but it's about progression. I like both.
Have you ever been involved with or invited to or thought about doing any vintage racing?
Man, I break so many new bikes. I don't need to jump on. I have the Elsinore. I might go back. My dad had an Elsinore.
Vintage automobile, not the bike.
Oh yeah, dude. So I did the East African Safari Classic Rally, and that was amazing. Jumped in a old Porsche rear wheel drive, and went across basically center of Africa. And it's good because in rally we usually have notes for every little bump. And I'm out there with Fabrizia, who's an amazing, iconic female rally co-driver. And we're going across, and she's like, yes, 20 miles, and then a sharp right. I'm like, what, were you 20 miles? And then she goes, elephant poop. And I'm like, what are you? Like, okay, cool, there's elephant poop. And then we came over a crest at like 150, and there's elephants in the middle. She's like, I told you elephant poop. I'm like, you should have said slow down. There's elephants nearby.
Are you driving a vintage 911 in that race?
Vintage 911, yes.
Yeah, people. Oh, we're looking at it. Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, people don't realize that they had a killer 959. I think it was Rothman's Porsche. They had some really cool rally 911s. Everyone always thinks of them as road racing cars, but they did a lot of those cars. Trying to think, like I have a lot of Datsun race cars. They had Baja 500 Z cars and Baja 500 510s and a lot of Paris to Dakar 911s and 959s. They had a lot of guys who did a lot of road racing also had a lot of off-road stuff back then as well. Trying to think, like, because like Subaru does a lot of rally racing, but they're not doing any road racing, I don't think.
A little bit, like the 24-hour stuff, but not at that level of like Le Mans where you're looking at the prototype class. But yeah, Subaru they're built for rally, all-wheel drive. I mean, super durable. Like they're the only car still that uses their actual frame, their actual motor, their everything. You're looking at a Volkswagen Bug, which nothing wrong with it, but when that thing's flying 0 to 60 in 1.8 seconds, you're like, wait a minute, what's in that Bug?
Yeah. The one Tanner Faust is driving is not
exactly
not a stock. There's nothing stock about that. Yeah, 1984, a Porsche 959 rally took both first and second in 1986, a Porsche 959 won the Paris-Dakar first and second Paris-Dakar rally. Those cars, by the way, I think one of those sold for like $6 million or something the other day. Have you thought about doing Le Mans and or Daytona? 24 hours of Daytona, 12 hours of Sebring, one of the big endurance races out here or there?
Yeah, had a great opportunity to jump in with Kaufman and Michael Waltrip and drove a Ferrari in 24 hours of Daytona. But for me, like as much as that is awesome, I'm better at making the best of the worst situations. I'm better when all four wheels are sideways on the dirt, figuring out how to keep the car on the road, where those guys, I mean, a 24-hour race has turned into a sprint race. These guys, every single lap is within a couple tenths of a second. They don't wear out the brakes. They're not hard on the cars. They don't ever overshoot a corner. The tires stay on the whole way. These are precision guys. I am not a precision driver. I am a Hail Mary, throw caution to the wind, and hopefully I have mechanics that can fix my car before the next stage.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting.
There you go.
We're looking at you in a 488, I'm guessing, or 430. Maybe it's a 430. Trying to think of what you drove there. And did you drive a 430 or 488?
To be perfectly honest, I'm like Cole Trickle. They put me in the car to drive, and everyone did. Every time I sit down at like a bar or something, every dude at the bar comes up and starts talking cars and dirt bikes. I'm like, dude, I'd love to drive. I know nothing about the mechanics of anything.
Sorry, 458. It was in between the 430 and the 488, and so I screwed that one up. The thing about the endurance racing, because I interviewed like the late great Dan Gurney about winning at Le Mans, and he would tell me that at the end of the Mulsanne Straight, you couldn't just brake hard and downshift and turn. You had to make the brakes last, and so he started developing all these techniques, because half of it was you had to drive the car, and then you also had to save the car. I mean, you couldn't brake the car, so you couldn't drive a 24-hour endurance race like a sprint race. The car would break back then. Now the technology is so good and the materials are so good that you can drive a 24-hour race like a sprint, which is pretty intense for 24 hours. So, yeah.
The guys are absolutely amazing. And I tell you, there's so many great race car drivers. Like every time I think, won a couple U.S. championships for rally. And every time I think, man, we're really on top of our game, some 60, 70-year-old dude comes out smoking a cigarette, like Stig Blomqvist, 1983 World Rally champion back in the Group B days when they used to have so much horsepower. And my second or third year rally, and he comes over to the U.S., late 60s at the time, doesn't do anything that an athlete you would think of does, and whooped our butts. And I just man, it's something that you lose probably last, is that feel of driving. So it's like motocross, except you can do it for a really long time. So there's just so many amazing drivers. It comes down to the little details. Like NASCAR, it comes down to the crew chief and the driver and the homework that you put in along these things. Now, Dakar, I think, would be a really exciting rally, and it'll be so much fun. But again, you can't overdrive. I have a hard time when you watch someone like I did the Baja 1000 a few times, and someone will come flying by you, and you're like, oh, well, I got to keep up with him. But not really. You just have to keep up with the fastest guy that's not going to break his vehicle or crash. And in 1,000 miles, or in the car, you're going for days. So it's really difficult to know how fast you have to go and to know what the opponents are doing. I mean, sometimes you're like, all right, well, we're right in the hunt. And then they'll just turn on a heater and you're like, shoot, we're 2 minutes down. Like, what do they do? And they had that much more in the tank. So distance racing has always been difficult for my kind of driving, for sure, or my kind of talent, if you will.
Are you able to, and I know exactly what you're talking about because I've done a couple of events with Jimmy Vasser, and that guy would just show up, look hungover, have someone hold a cigarette, go out, and he had 10 laps to qualify. He'd do 2.5 laps and then just come in, get back out of the car and go grab a beer and start walking away. And then you're like, who's on the pole? Oh, Vassar's on the pole. He only did 2 laps. Yeah, that's fast enough for him. It's crazy when the guys have that kind of casual talent or ability or something. And this is with a lot.
Vassar put in his time, years and years, and now he's just that good. But you look at so many of the guys that, you look at rally, even sport, but rally in the early 90s, late 80s, man, those guys used to go and they'd recce and they'd drink all night and they'd rally all day. And then it was all about the party, kind of like X Games in the late 90s. And now once money comes involved, you can't do that anymore. These guys, even NASCAR, they're fit. I mean, these guys are doing, on their off days, they're doing triathlons and they're trying to get lightweight. There's an argument in Race of Champions, funniest conversation I've ever been a fly on the wall for. Race of Champions gets together the top off-road and road driver from all over the world, from different countries to represent your country. So I was on with Kyle Busch, and the F1 champion at the time, Sebastian Vettel, was making fun of Kyle about you're not a real driver. Look at your gut. Right. And Kyle, who's a light guy in general, was like, what do you mean? He's like, look at your slippers. And Vettel, being very German, he's like, he thought it was a compliment. He's like, oh yes, they're 0.003 ounces. Like these are great. And it was just so funny hearing the difference, because the F1 guys, every Petter Solberg won't even drive with a watch on, because that's going to take a half of a tenth of a second by the end of the rally. So they're trying to cut down on all this weight and do everything, where the NASCAR guys are still kind of your good old boys, where they're like, I'm just going to outdrive you. So it is cool to see the difference in culture and how much it is evolving now to every little ounce matters. And that's where F1 is already.
Well, it's funny if you see you go back in the day and you see Mark Spitz, who was like the greatest Olympic swimmer of all time before Phelps. I think he won 6 gold medals. He's got a big bushy 70s porn mustache and like big 70s hair. And he's like, yeah, that's how I roll. And it's like now guys are shaving every fucking hair on their body just to try to get a little less drag, through the water. And it kind of reminds me of that. Like he had a big old bushy mustache. Nobody would do that with long hair and like chest hair and stuff. Like nobody would do that today.
No, you're slowing yourself down on purpose.
But the ladies love it. So Travis, for you, are you able to shut it down? And I don't know if you think of yourself as an adrenaline junkie, but are you able to just, watch some TV and have a beer and not be sort of have mind racing, thinking about the next conquest or the next project or the next adventure?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I tell you, if anything, COVID has been really good. I've never been able to let me rephrase. COVID has not been good, but it has been good for my family specifically, not financially or not business-wise or anything else. It's been really tough, obviously, on everyone. But I would have never been able to spend the last 3 months at home. I was planning on being on the road for 2 months. My family was going to try to come out in between school on the weekends to see me at the events. But even at the events or, when you're doing your shows or anything, you're still focused on other stuff, even though you're there together. I've had so much time to really spend with my family. And this has been a really kind of a wake-up call to say, hey, look, you wouldn't have got this time back. And actually really excited. Actually started a project in Maryland. Always wanted to be home more. Traveling's been amazing, especially for a single guy. It's great. But now with 2 young daughters, my wife, starting an area where, because my wife is 2019 world champion for skateboards, and my kids like BMX and go-karts. So we're starting kind of a motorsports facility that's close by, and to also show off rally, to see, to build a track that's like a hell track for, back if you ever watched the movie Rad, where all these things are bigger and scarier and crazier, but also, to build it as safe as we can. And now with the Olympics and everything, and my wife working with Women's Sports Foundation to have a place where the kids have a chance to get into action sports and where we can do all that together. Yeah,
it's a good answer, because I was the same way. I was always traveling, always doing shows, always getting on a plane, and this sort of hustle, because you have a motor and you kind of have this, you got to make that hay while the sun is shining kind of thing, and then it all gets shut down, and then you find yourself sort of hanging around and kind of enjoying your family. Like it was like, oh, I don't know, but I think in a weird way, for guys like you and I, some force from the outside has to stop us. I don't know if you're going to do it internally. It has to be imposed on you, right?
That's what they said with motocross. When you say, "Oh yeah, I'm taking a break," it meant you're broken, so you can't ride, so you're sitting at home.
Right, you took a break. The show, which is very excellent, by the way, which is coming on to Quibi this Monday, July 6th, Life-Size Toys. It's big. It's visually spectacular. And Travis, I'm always amazed and a little bit jealous on how good he is and how funny he is on camera. That's most guys who wear a helmet for a living aren't so good in front of the camera, whether they're football players or rally drivers. But you are blessed in many different fields, my friend. So you have this sort of natural, affable likability and ease in front of the camera and funny, and also can go out there and do what you do in the stunt department. So this TV show cool because we actually are on Quibi, I guess TV kind of new format, but we got to take a group of guys and Vicky Golden, who's one of the top female only motocross racer female that ever qualified for an actual pro main event. But guys that are normally so scared doing what they're doing that they don't have a chance to get their personality across. Mm-hmm. And in this show, we had 2 weeks together, just making fun of each other, having a blast. And it really felt like we were just big kids again, and for us, it turned out to be a little more of a stunt show than a build show, which we had kind of started. But at the end, it was so much fun. And I think that camaraderie really came through, and you get to see the guys
actually having fun and not feared for their life or doing like dropping it at X Games where their whole livelihood depends on it. So it's a good watch.
Yeah, it's a good watch. Life-size toys, Quibi, coming up Monday, July 6th. Thanks for joining us, Travis Pastrana. You know, I'm a huge fan, and hopefully when you're out in L.A. next, I can show you a bunch of race cars and hang out a little bit.
Hey, be careful what you ask for. I will take you up on that in a second. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Travis. Appreciate it. All right, let me hit Live by Live 4th of July mix. Oh, right, this weekend, putting together my personal 4th of July mix. Hours of great music for you to enjoy while you celebrate the nation's Personal Achievement Day. There you go. Just go to Live by Live, that's livexlive.com, and search Adam, or download the Live by Live app. Again, search Adam Carolla and enjoy my personal curated 4th of July weekend music. And I mean it. I stand by those songs. All right. My book, I'm Your Emotional Support Animal. You can go ahead and get the audio and the Kindle. The hardback's coming soon, but check that out. Have a great 4th of July. Go to adamcarolla.com if you need any info, and go to our YouTube page as well. And until next time, Good Sports is coming up next. Adam Carolla for Gina Gradball, Bryan, and Travis Pastrana saying mahalo.
Stick around. Dave Damashek and Adam Carolla come back next with Good Sports.